Hello, Stella. Well,
Hi.
hello. I wanted to let you know that we've got some people on the call already, and I've just done a stretch with them.
Oh my God, that's lovely. I'm sorry, I'm running a few minutes late. I just realized. I apologize.
It's all good. We just did a stretch, and now they're about to share with us their biggest burning questions for when they are now in the coronavirus times, and we're in week X, and we're all in this situation and what's on their mind. So they're going to be sharing their questions with us right now before we get started. And as we do that, I'm going to stream this to Facebook Live, where we stream every day. So I'll be doing that. And please let us know what is on your minds before we jump into our session today with Stella Grizont. Stella, I'm going to ask you and me the same question as well. What is most on our minds these days as we are so far along into lockdown?
Oh my God.
I know, right? What's not on our minds?
Yeah, I'm like my head is spinning just by thinking about that question.
uh, okay. And here are some of the things we are hearing. We're hearing top of mind, what shifts have happened and what more shifts are coming? That's a very deep philosophical question. I love that. What shifts have happened and what shifts are coming? Another question coming up, we're getting questions from two locations, are tiredness. I'm feeling tired, and what should I do about that? A question from the participant who asked earlier, what do I have to accept, and how do I keep my body happy? What a wonderful question. Thank you. Thank you about thinking about your body separately for that situation. That's awesome. So what we've been doing is taking what your questions are at this point in the coronavirus lockdown. And Stella and I are going to have a discussion, and then hopefully we will get to some of these in the Q&A section. So I'm going to introduce everything and Stella, and we'll get started. Today, just so everyone knows, we're going to talk for about 15-20 minutes, Stella and I, on a specific topic, and then we'll get into a bunch of Q&As. Hi, Stella.
Hi.
Hi.
Can I just say I think it's amazing, Sanya, that you have kept these going consistently and helped so many people through this time. I applaud you. It's an honor to be
Thank
here,
you.
and I think it's amazing what you've been
Thank you.
doing.
We're on session something like 55, believe it or not. So it's just Monday to Friday. So I'm thrilled that you're here. Let me start this off. Welcome to Daily Work Remote Strategies. Today we're speaking with Stella Grizont, who is a coach with us with Silicon Valley Change. And Stella, she's a close friend, and she's done a lot of things in the entrepreneurial world as well. So helping a lot of people who are entrepreneurs, as well as people in large technology companies. So we're delighted to be here today with Stella. Hi.
Me too. Hi.
Stella, what is the topic that we will most be talking about today?
I thought we could talk about how to get real with employees. So, doing like a real check in and just really making sure that folks are okay, and knowing how to navigate that real check in.
And you're talking about doing a check-in, which is, I think, so valuable, a check-in with employees. Now, is this as transferable to our peers and to our managers and to people at home, like spouses or close friends?
Absolutely. I think this is if you want to talk to your colleague or you want to talk to your significant other or your sister, I think it all is relevant. It's just about how are you really doing and how to navigate that conversation.
So this is what we'll be talking about today. Feel free to pop in your questions on this topic. Stella, why is this important? So why is it important to do these kinds of check-ins, whether it's with your team members or with your significant others or with people that you report to or your clients? Why is it important to do these kinds of check-ins?
I think for so long, we kind of business as usual meant you left your personal life at the door. And so there was this expectation that you as an emotional being or as a father, as a mother, as a daughter, as a sister, all of that got left behind. And you're just, the doer who's supposed to show up and do their job. And we knew that wasn't working for a long time already, that was a broken paradigm. But now it really is broken because we have pets and babies and children and everyone joining Zooms. And
So true.
we cannot deny that, okay, it's summer and many summer camps are not working, and we don't know what's happening with schools. So it's not feasible to pretend like it's business as usual. And people are stressed out. Like, it's a lot to juggle. This is like there's new boundaries that have to be created, new self-care rhythms. Everything is new. And so people's well-being is really, I think, being compromised right now. And so managers and colleagues, and we all just have to be there for each other to make sure that we're just, because there's flexibility, but we don't know how to be flexible unless we know what's really going on.
Yeah.
So
So we're good. Let's say I've decided to have this check-in, and let's say I'm going to decide to have a check-in with a team member. What should I think about as I go into that check-in, and what should I really ask in that check-in?
yeah. So and the thing is, I bet most folks here have already done some version of this already, but we just have to keep doing it because we keep everything is, nothing's still, normal, quote unquote. So, and I think we do this even when there's no pandemic. But what I would do first and foremost, because you really don't know maybe someone's marriage is now on the line, right? Or who knows what's happening at home. So you want to gather your resources. So if you are a manager, you want to know, what resources does your organization offer around mental health? Or I know many organizations are now offering help around homeschooling and free online classes. So what are those resources, those levers that you have as a manager or as an organization? Maybe you have flexibility to offer time off, right? Or you can move people around on projects. So just really getting clear on that before you have the conversation, so you know what's available to help. And then what I would do before you have a check-in is check yourself. And so that's probably the most important thing, is check yourself, because most of the times we go into conversations, especially difficult ones, we already think we know how the person is going to respond. We have our own personal judgments, even though we like to think we're not judgmental. All of that is brewing, right? So you kind of have to cleanse yourself of all of that. If this is really about having a caring conversation, you have to go in there with that level of like care, curiosity, right? Like, I really want to know what's going on here. And so what I tell all my clients to do is to practice a loving kindness meditation. And Senya, we've studied this, the loving kindness or meditation, it's actually been researched, and we know it has all sorts of amazing benefits. So I would, to help you get into that zone, especially if you're coming off a meeting and you're stressed, or you are having trouble managing your own life, right? Like, we're all very full. So you want to really be as grounded, open, and caring before you have the conversation. So whatever you need to get into that zone. And then when you have that conversation, you might want to start with, even maybe before you have it, again, this might be part of the check yourself, is notice what observations or judgments are coming up and see if you can really get into this person's shoes, right? Like, maybe you're a single man and have no kids, and you're about to talk to a mother of 3, right? And you think you know that she's busy, but do you really know what that's like? Or maybe vice versa. Maybe you have a family and you're talking to someone who doesn't, and you think their life is so easy and it's so breezy. So how might you really try to, without judgment, step into another person's shoes and just be there for a second? And so when you go into that conversation, you can quite honestly say, like, I don't, I don't know what it's like to have 3 kids, or I don't know what it's like for you right now, or I don't know what it's like to have a family member who's going through COVID. How are you really doing? Like, what's going on for you? So just to have that softness, and even if you don't get it right, even if you try to understand and you're completely off, the intention of your desire to understand, that's what's going to transmit. And Senya, you wrote about this in your book with Margaret from Profit from
From
the
the
Positive,
yeah, yeah.
about the Achu effect, right? How our emotions are contagious. And so if you are coming from a place of care, that's what's going to transmit. If you're coming from a place of judgment, even if you say all the right things, that also is going to come through, right? So, so you want to kind of ask, I don't know what it's like. Tell me what's going on. Now, you might not be prepared for whatever they say. This might go way into a territory that you don't know how to deal with. It's uncomfortable for you.
Just be prepared. Anything could happen.
Anything can happen, right? And that's okay. It's not your job to know how to handle that situation, but what you could do is start empathizing, right? Oh my God, that sounds really challenging. And using some of their language, like, wow, it sounds like you're really stressed. So the more you mirror their language, it just says, I'm listening, right? And then you could say, here's some resources that might be helpful, or I don't know how to help in this circumstance, but I want you to know if there's something I can do in relation to your projects, let me know. And if you need some help finding resources from the organization, I can do that too. So you don't have to solve any personal matters that come up for them, but sometimes you're just listening is the biggest way you can be of service. And then what I would also do is, if this is true, I wouldn't even start off this way, is just making them feel really safe about their job security, safe about their contribution and how much you value them. Because if they, so many people are worried about job security. So even if they are having challenges and they can't keep up, they might not feel safe sharing that with you. So if you really do feel confidence in their job security, you want to assure them of that, and let them know that you really want to be supportive of making sure they can get through this, and you trust that you trust in their abilities, and you guys are going to get through this together. So I think and then also, I think this is a more challenge, like this is your bonus. If you're a leader, then you get bonus points if you're willing to hear what you can be doing better, right? So if you want to say something like, hey, you don't have to tell me now, and I know you weren't expecting this, but I really am willing to look at ways that I can be better as a leader for you now. Like, this is uncharted territory. So if you have ideas for how I can show up better for you and the team, please know that I am very open to hearing that whenever you're ready or have ideas. So that's kind of what I would do.
So let me see if I've got it. A few things to do before, and the notes that I've put into our chat for everybody are, what resources do you have, and checking yourself before you get out there.
Yeah.
And parts of the checking yourself that you said are a couple of things. It sounds like do something like a loving kindness meditation. And I've dropped a few from YouTube into the chat so you can look for them.
Okay.
And then secondly, you said, in addition to kind of prepping yourself with a loving kindness meditation, which, just like you said, we've seen the research. I mean, this research was published in the highest psychology magazine called JPSP, Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. This is shown. This is not like, oh, it would be nice. This is really shown. So that, but also you said check what your observations may be. So kind of check with what your assumptions might be. So that's all before. And then am I getting it right? So I wrote down in here, the 4 things that we should do when we're speaking are that anything can happen. And I'm not even sure if that's a thing, but just if that's sort of one of your points, but just watch and do reflexive listening, listen for things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then resource, try to help, or if you don't know, say you don't know how, but you might in another area, make the person that you're speaking with feel safe. Maybe even start with that. And finally,
Yeah.
and I think this one's just, it's so impactful, Stella, and I think it's so hard to do the first time when you're playing with it, which is to be vulnerable as a leader. Like, I don't know what to do in this situation, or this isn't going not so well. What should I do?
Absolutely. I love that. And you can even, I imagine this is very awkward for many people to do. Even if you're doing it peer to peer, it is uncomfortable. And I think you can even say that. You can say, I don't do this kind of stuff. You know, I like to just go through our checklist and stay focused on the projects, but we're having, you know, we're in unprecedented times. And I think it's important for us to just see how we're doing, and I want to know how you're doing. You know, this is awkward. Just saying this is awkward for me diffuses the awkwardness already. So just being honest that I don't like doing this, but I care about you, and I think we should.
There's a greater goal to us talking about these things.
Yeah.
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 And I think it's also hard because we're all on Zoom calls back to back to back. And so when we are to get to one where you're actually giving the space for someone to have this conversation, it's such a, I mean, look, you just sighed as I said that. It's such a gift to get that.
Yeah, it is such a gift. And like, yeah, like good, like we're not taking any breaths. So I love that you noticed I took a sigh. And so, yeah, we're not really stopping. And so one of the things that I think also managers could do, or even colleagues could say, like an offering, especially I think anyone listening to you, Senya, is probably like an overachiever. And so always wanting to give more. And sometimes it's really hard for overachievers to admit that they need help or delegate more than they're used to, or create more firm boundaries. And so as a manager might offer that and say, can I help you? I know you're always giving so much, but if you need some help to say no, I can help you with that. If you need some help to delegate, I can help you with that.
Can I just say, I have been hearing this on coaching calls this week a lot, just people wanting the permission to say no. So if their manager were to walk into their Zoom office and say, how can I help you to be able to say no? Thank you, manager. I think that would be
what a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stella. So this is about starting to have that conversation and then actually coming and having that conversation and being, it sounds like, very open to things that you know that you can give and things that you don't know that you can give in that conversation.
Yeah.
We are about to enter the Q&A phase. So thank you so much for that formal part. And now it's all about you all on the call. And we've just gotten our first question, so we'll go straight there. Okay, first question. How does one do what you've suggested with leaders above you? Where leaders are still overachievers, but they're not dropping into letting go?
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's a
Yeah,
deep question, yeah.
that's a good one. I mean, you can still pretty much do the same thing. You can just say, how are you really doing? And I just want you to know, I get how much you're holding, and you're holding so much for all of us. And I just want you to know I'm here if you want to talk through things or rethink things, or um, just need an extra ear. Yeah.
Does that answer your question for the person?
Yeah. Is that?
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
I wonder if sort of, I mean, feel free to tell me how it doesn't work. I mean, I guess if you want your leader to check in with you, that's a little bit of a different approach. So I don't know if that's what you meant.
And how has this worked, Stella? I imagine you've tried this process with your clients, suggesting this to them. How has it worked? What have you heard?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really I think what happens is we usually put, what I've seen is there's a big relief. Like there's a lot of, oh my God, worry that you're not doing enough, and having this conversation might expose you in some way that, if you're the, if you're the one who's being asked to check in, or it just, there's a lot of worry. And then when you have this conversation, there's just relief. Like, we're in this together. And usually there's some beautiful solutions that come through that offer relief to the employee, being like, oh my God, this is great. Um, so I've also seen cases where it's been resisted, and that's not cool either. So I really think that it's just about being human, right? All we're doing is breaking down how to be a caring person in the workplace right now.
We have a tactical question for you. One person writes, how do you capture what you've learned from that one-on-one? And how do you take notes and follow up on specific topics?
Oh, that's good. I would imagine you could just take notes in the conversation saying, you know what, I, if it's appropriate, right? So if it's appropriate, you could say, here's what I'm hearing, just like Senya, you did right here. Like, here's what I'm hearing. Is this right? And by just doing that, I think that makes everyone feel so heard. It really is so gratifying. So I think that's great if you can repeat what you're saying, even writing it down, and then maybe you make an agreement. How would you like to check back in on this in our next one-on-one, or in 1 month from now?
Yeah, so it sounds like getting the content, writing it down, but also asking for permission to follow up.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
if it's appropriate, right? Yeah.
We have a follow-up on the question about having this kind of conversation with leaders above you. So I'll read it. This is a difficult question. This person says, I know, I recognize this. Let me just read this. Oh, okay, great. So they're saying that Stella, your response does make sense, because it's a simple heart-based check-in, whether it's with a leader or with a team member or with a peer. And they're also saying that sometimes it's difficult to speak to someone who's very much in their head. And that could be
Oh,
above, or what do you have advice on that? Because in our work lives, we are often very much in our heads. I know I'm super guilty of this, regardless of how much emphasis I place on emotion or physical. I mean, I just feel so overheady.
oh my God, me too. And so, I go back, you can't control where the other person is at, right? But if you stay really, really present and you do that inner work before the conversation, they're gonna, it, it almost, it can help snap someone out of their headiness just by your resonating, being very grounded, not getting caught up in that stuff, but just like looking them in the eye, maybe speaking slowly, like speaking caringly. That actually can help bring someone into their heart. So that's your work. You can't help them in their head, but if you do your work really well, that can start to rub off. What do you think, Senya?
I love that. I love that part of just slow down. This person is saying that's so useful. I totally agree. If you're slowing down and being present, actually, you might have noticed as you were saying that, I sighed. I can relate to that. It's so easy for all of us. What's the task? What do we need to get done? This resonates with me with something I heard a client say recently, which is that they're trying to listen without trying to think of the answer.
Yeah.
That's really hard for us to do.
It's so hard. And, I think there's so many, back to the very first question before we started, like, what are the shifts? And I think that maybe one of the shifts is we're being called upon to really, really listen to what's going on, not only for others, but in our bodies, like really, really listen for what's going on. So on all fronts.
I think, Stella, your topic comes at such an opportune time. A lot of us are making a strong commitment to listen, and this is just another way of listening on a very individual, one-on-one level.
Well, great. I'm glad.
Thank you so much, Stella. Today we have been with Stella Grizont. We're delighted you were here with us. Thank you. We're here every day, Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific for 20 minutes. Thank you, Stella.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Best.
Bye.